things to go with it, I believe. We also have Don Nishiguchi from Whole Foods. He's easily one of Whole Foods' most popular foragers, and we're delighted to have him with us today. He has the coolest stories about working with early stage farmers. And we have Matt Roy from US Foods, who's been heading up their sustainability and local food initiative. Our moderator today is Lisa Song Sutton. We have a great story about how Lisa came to be here. And I'm going to embarrass Caleb now. I got an email from Caleb last week where he said to me, you should really include my friend Lisa in this event. She's Miss Nevada. And initially I thought, what the heck does that have to do with indoor produce? And then I actually got to chat with Lisa, and I realized that not only does she own her own food startup, but she not only has 1 but 2 degrees. And she's incredibly smart and incredibly passionate about the food industry. So we're delighted to have her with us today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that this conference is being hosted here in Las Vegas. Woo! I was speaking to some people outside, and we were doing some online interviews, and one of the questions that kept popping up, they said, why should indoor agricultural entrepreneurs want to bring their company to Las Vegas? Why should they want to bring it to Nevada? And I said, why not? One of the best things about Nevada is that Nevada has a wonderful, wonderful support and empowerment of the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm an owner, co-owner of Sin City Cupcakes, which is Las Vegas's only alcohol-infused cupcake company. Alcohol cupcakes, Las Vegas, what's not to love, right? But we've experienced such an outpouring of support here, not only locally, but also in the state. And, I mean, there's a reason why major companies incorporate in either Nevada or Delaware. The corporate laws here are very strong, and they're very protective and corporate-friendly towards owners. And there's no corporate tax. There's no state income tax. There's many, many benefits of incorporating here in Nevada, which many of you know and enjoy. So I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me. As you all have read online, and as she introduced as well, we have this really amazing panel. And I'd like to open it up perhaps with a question in relation to how can a lot of these local farmers get their products into retailers like a Whole Foods or a US Foods. Could you maybe guide us through what that process is and your selection criteria?
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Roy from US Foods. So we have a unique perspective on setting you up as a vendor. So we're obviously a nationwide wholesaler. So we do business with the big growers across the country on indoor ag. We also have a strong push for local products. So what we're finding is we're going into a lot of markets where there's maybe only 2, 3, 4 months of produce being grown in those markets. So the opportunity for indoor ag is so great because it allows us to have product year-round that's local to that market. We're also seeing a lot of state governments get involved with funding, with policies, with different things that are motivating state-funded agencies to buy locally. So as we continue to look at different parts of the country and where we can buy product, support local, build the relationship between the grower and the consumer, we're finding that indoor ag has a great opportunity because, I mean, you guys know, look at like Illinois is a great example. There's not a lot of fresh produce grown in Illinois, but we're finding people that are very excited and motivated to do indoor ag in that market because it allows us the capacity to have good product year-round with consistency. So.
Hi, everybody. My name is Don Nishiguchi from Whole Foods Market. I got probably 10% of my growers that are indoor farmers, greenhouse growers. And that's pretty high for me to have 10% of my growers that way. It gives them opportunities to grow products that other people can't grow during the season. Especially I tell these guys, the growers themselves, grow your peppers and your tomatoes during the winter season because everything we import during the winter season, because of the weather seasonality, why can't we grow it here? Because the weather's warmer. You guys got greenhouses to control the temperature, and you will get people will support local here. I went to a farm on Monday, 8,000 acres up in Yerington, about 400 miles up. It's all ground. And I'm kind of shocked and saying that there's hardly any Nevada growers out here. And I want to get behind you guys, if you're out here, to try to help you guys to get into Whole Foods. I come from a farming background, and I wish I had someone like me to help you guys get in. I'll work with you, help you get into Whole Foods.
Hi everyone, my name is Britta Riley, and I am the founder of a company called Window Farms, and we're one of those kind of weird, disintermediating, shorter path to market or to from farm to table companies. And what we do is we manufacture a vertical garden system that's very simple and that can go into everything from a restaurant or a museum for a very large display, all the way down to just somebody's apartment window. And so what we do is we're essentially recreating the idea of a kitchen garden and the experience of actually being able to daily harvest some of your own fresh ingredients for your food by what we call co-production. So our systems are essentially like a living refrigerator, and we work with local farmers all across the country. So we're developing a network of farmers, and we train the farmers how to pack and drop ship live seedling plants directly to our consumers, to our restaurants, and to our institutional partners, so that there are living displays that you can harvest right there in your kitchen for basically the freshest food that you could actually have in your kitchen or in your restaurant. And we generally work with small to medium-sized greenhouse farmers. We do supply, we're introducing right now a subscription model. So once a month, or in the case of restaurants, once a week, a new shipment is going out, and we do mostly kind of the things that you're already selling to a lot of to Whole Foods, for example, like the basils, the arugula, the very typical things. But we also work with farmers to find some of those really interesting things that a lot of consumers are never really exposed to in the stores, like corn shoots and edible flowers that taste like tangerines. And by working with these individual, like small farmers, we're able to help them subsidize their research and development inside their own greenhouses to find new kinds of crops. So for example, I think one of the ones that's really going to be popular that we're going to see go through the roof, almost like kale, is going to be tulsi, which is like the holy basil that's very popular in India. And because of all of the yoga culture and a lot of the green juice phenomena that are happening, that's a very popular ingredient. So we help farmers be able to kind of subsidize working with some of these unusual crops that they might not necessarily be able to find another steady year-round market for.
Britta, how would you make suggestions to the people who do utilize your product currently and they want to perhaps not only grow it for themselves and their family, but maybe on a larger scale to get it into like a Whole Foods or US Foods?
Yeah, so our systems are really for personal use or use, like I said. So one of our restaurant partners is an international healthy food fast food chain called Freshie. And I don't know if there is one here in Las Vegas or not. I think they may have one here. But so what they're doing is they're putting our systems, an array of our systems, up in their restaurant. And our farmers are shipping them new plant shipments. So it's really kind of like a container for these live plants. And then the customers get to come along and snip off some live chives and some fresh basil that still has that full flavor that most of us don't get from a plant that was already, snipped by the farmer and then shipped in some kind of plastic packaging and was kind of dying along the way. So that's what the experience is. We don't have a lot of people who are necessarily growing for market, but we have done. We did a really big installation for the American Museum of Natural History in New York City last year, where we grew 500 food plants of all different varieties, and we just produced like huge tubs full of produce, and it was used for kind of bake sales and things like that. So we do see people doing like school fundraisers and so forth with the produce that they're generating in some of the big systems that are run by a community. But for the most part, it's either restaurants using them for their own customers or individuals who are just using them to grow some fresh produce in their own windows.
Thank you. Dawn, you obviously forage really, really unique items. What's your criteria when looking for those types of items to bring into Whole Foods?
I look out there and see what's unique. If it's unique and different, but it could be the ugliest thing out there, but if it tastes great, I'm going to take it. I'm looking for flavor, and we're looking for flavor. I don't think, personally, I'm looking for flavor. I think everybody's looking for flavor. They want to find the newest thing out there. But if you have flavor behind that ugly fruit, I'm going to take it. I'm going to try it with you guys, and we're going to grow together. That's the way I work.
How does the scalability work? If you find a really unique item, but let's say it's only manufactured in very, very small amounts, and some people here may only manufacture very small amounts of certain items, does Whole Foods work with them to try to scale that to a larger level? Does Whole Foods even have a need for scalability at that time?
Let me give you an example. Colin from Archie Acres, he was one of my first ones, a greenhouse. He only has 1,500 square feet greenhouse. First he started in San Diego, one store, because I don't want to take you into a lot of stores because you might fail. I'm not that way. I want to grow with you, make you grow together, and we grow together and get big together. With him, we started in one store, and then we took him to 3 stores, and then after that, 7 stores. I'm out there looking for different product or what people don't really grow. I took Go Green from nothing. They didn't have no ideas. They waited for 4 months to get me out there to look at their product, what to grow. And I could tell you what to grow, but I don't want to be liable for that product if it's a failure. You know, I could give you suggestions. I could help you make it to the quality of what we're looking for. If you get it to our standards, you could probably sell it to anybody.
Matt, with U.S. Foods, how do you think that your current client list views tech and food? Because a lot of your buyers are large-scale restaurants, or they're buying in bulk, and they have those really, really large-scale needs. How do they view tech and U.S. Foods' relationship with that?
Well, I think, you know, on a large scale for big customers, they're looking at anything that's going to help control food costs. So if we're dealing with a regional or a national chain, indoor ag is of interest because it is a way for technology to permeate into produce. You know, on a micro level, the unique items and the local aspect that indoor can offer is more, you know, local restaurants, schools, you know, local healthcare. You know, that's who's really driving the local push. But I would say the indoor ag is really, the interest on that's really driven from a utilizing technology standpoint and trying to find ways to better control food costs.
Thank you. Britta, how do you explain to consumers the idea of hydroponics and utilizing that for their own home use?
Yeah, actually, so I started this company out of an open source project about 6 years ago, where you may have seen a whole string of water bottles hanging down and being used as a hydroponic system. That was one of our original creations in our open source project. And basically, you know, over time, I've gotten to see, that was back in 2008, I think, and I've gotten to see the way that consumers, you know, mindset around hydroponics has changed. And I definitely see a little bit more willingness and a little bit more openness, especially not as much down in the southern states, but where we are up on the northeast, and we're now in Canada as well. You know, just the acceptance of hydroponics and aquaponics and all of these different varieties has really increased dramatically. And I think one of the challenges there is that we're thinking about the large scale, you know, the consumer is thinking about large scale agriculture a lot of the time, which when it gets to hydroponics, again, you run into some of these problems of flavor, right? But I think that now there are enough of us who are starting to get out there and doing really tinkering with our nutrients and really driving flavor. And there have just been a few key pieces, like the New York Times did a really great piece, I think maybe a year ago, on the rise of hydroponics, and it's going to be the chefs who drive the cultural change around that. And I also find that with our customers, I just, you know what, I honestly don't push the whole hydroponic idea on them. You know, you can talk about freshness, you can talk about a live plant, and not necessarily go, you know, it's all marketing, right? If you bring up something that's a red flag for people, just you don't necessarily always need to do that. We don't need to call out the fact that it's hydroponic necessarily.
Don and Matt, what should farmers have prepared or researched before approaching a distributor?
I think it's been talked about a lot today. Food safety is a huge deal. For us, a minimum to buy from anybody is GAP certification. Also, liability insurance is a big one for us. So those are the two big roadblocks that anyone has to look at before doing business with us. And then the third one is logistics. So, do you have enough volume? Does it make sense? How do we get it to our facility? I think what's nice about us or Whole Foods is we're one entity. So you can sell us, and we can take all your product. We can sell it all. It's one singular way to sell it, as opposed to the man hours that it takes to deliver a lot of restaurants, do farmers markets, those types of things. But really to start out, the food safety, the liability insurance are the two big things to get going with us.
Okay.
I think doing your homework, seeing what seasonality is, check your neighborhoods, see what they're after too.
And unlike Don, it sounds like U.S. Foods might need a larger quantity, a more larger scale ability for that particular product.
Yeah, I like to comment about the chefs, because the chefs really are what's going to drive really menu change. So it's a little, I guess, easier in a retail environment to find that really crazy off-the-wall item and get it into a store and push it. It's a little more of a challenge to convince a stubborn chef why he should buy this item that's maybe ugly or doesn't perform the best when he's using it. But I think that's the big thing for us.
Okay. And how do you market it to, because U.S. Foods has corporate chefs. So how do you guys work with your corporate chefs to be able to market that out to potential clientele like other chefs?
Right. So the best thing that we've probably done to drive innovation has been called a program we call Scoop. So we have a whole team of culinary people and executive chefs that really comb the industry looking for the most cutting-edge items that are out there. So it's the easiest, I guess it's the most dynamic way that we can implement new items. So a really cool item, not produce-related, but we launched a ghost pepper cheese. Awesome item. No one had it in the industry. It was really unique. Got a lot of people excited. So we launch 6 times a year, 10 to 25 new items each time. And we're always looking for the best, the greatest thing out there. Last year, an item we did was a shaved Brussels sprout. So we took an item that was very low movement in a food service environment, did not have a lot of mileage to it, and created an item that really wasn't out there on a national scale, and put it out there on a national scale and drove getting a Brussels sprout on the menus. And now as we travel across the country, we see Brussels sprouts as a common item now on menus in many different markets. So for us, our Scoop platform really helps us drive innovation.
Thank you.
I want to add to small farmers, if you only have enough for one store, we're willing to take you on for just one store. You work with the store directly with one item. Sure, we ask for more items, but the easiest thing to grow out there is that kale out there, and kale is growing 30% every year. And nobody could keep up with kale. If you grow too much, we could use it in the produce department. We could use it in other departments that make chips, kale chips out of it. We could put them in sandwiches and salads and stuff like that. If you only have enough money for one store, that's fine. We understand that. And if you don't have the product every day for us, we understand that. There are hiccups. There could be diseases, or it got too hot. Or if you come on heavy because the heat came on real strong, you got to move it. We'll help you move that product. Because it's a partnership to grow together. That's what we're looking at.
And what type of agreements would these farmers have to enter into in order to get into like a Whole Foods or U.S. Foods? Is it a 1 year? Is it 6 months? Is it seasonal?
I mean, I would echo Don's comments that we do stuff division by division. So, if a company is looking to scale up and do a lot, we have the platform to do that, but we also have divisions across the country and almost every major market. So we're looking for items that are unique, that maybe only work for one division, that maybe only work for a few restaurants, but we have that platform to do it. As far as agreements go, we try to build a relationship, but we're not looking for a commitment. So We want to look at it is, does this make sense for both of us? What does the opportunity look like? What are your products? How does your logistics look? How can we make that work? And then we try to build somewhat of a partnership. So, we're not going to ask for an exclusive from you. We understand that you might still sell your products to other people, but we want a good commitment that we're going to have a good relationship, and we're going to do everything we can to help each other grow the business.
Britta, what do you think has been the main challenge in not only trying to market your product to consumers, but also kind of introduce it to this world of food and technology?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a huge, I think that I think we've made a lot of mistakes in the early days of this industry, and I think that when we even talk about organic versus inorganic, a lot of the times we're just really chasing our tails when it comes to looking at what the consumer is actually looking for. What they're actually looking for is, actually a very psychological thing. And I think I'm a city girl a country girl who moved to the city in New York City, and I've been there for 14 years. And I've noticed that a lot of people who move to the city, the first 5 years of being there, they're like, oh, this is so great. And then after about 5 years, a little bit of something sinks in where they're missing nature. They're missing being around greenery a lot of the time. And I think a lot of that is what's playing into this movement, the biophilia concept. That yearning for freshness manifests. You can even see it in women's cosmetics, that they're marketing getting the glow, and that's really yearning for kind of a bygone era when we had very much closer relationships. And so I think really listening to the customer and understanding that the customer is not really paying attention to all of the kind of nerdy ins and outs of organic and chemistry. I mean, our scientific education in this country is really, pretty low compared to a lot of the conversations that we're having in this room. So I think the challenge is keeping our ears open to what it is that the customer is actually looking for, and making sure we're continually asking ourselves if the products that we're marketing are actually meeting that need. And that's how I came into this business of actually delivering live plant shipments on a recurring basis. I discovered that a lot of my customers say that they want to grow their own food, but when it really boils down to it, time is a big factor for them. And they want that living produce around them. They want to be able to see and know where their food comes from. They want that relationship with the farmer that we're bringing to it. But when it boils down to it, doing a really good job at germinating a seedling food plant that you're going to eat and that's going to have good flavor is not the sort of thing that somebody who lives in a city or lives in an apartment is really ready to take on. It's just too much. And so if we're just listening to what those problems are for them and looking at those as opportunities to really rethink our entire business models and just make sure that they're getting that end experience that they're looking for, I think that's really what we need to do a better job of.
Thank you. Don, in your experience as a forager, what do you think has been the largest roadblock or challenge that you've seen in local farmers trying to market their produce?
A lot of them come up to me and says, I'm a farmer. I got this for sale. Everybody's farmers. Everybody sells things. But to sell your stuff, you got to have a story behind you. Why are you selling it? Why did you grow it in the first place? Or why did you move out here to build this greenhouse? Why? Our customers are very educated. They take their time to read where the produce is coming from, and they want to know why we buy your stuff, sell your product at our stores. So the story really helps.
Thank you. Matt, similar question in that what have you seen in working for such a large corporation like US Foods? What has been a challenge that you've experienced in relation to marketing certain products to your clientele and chefs?
I think the challenge that's kind of become an opportunity is that food's kind of become cool again. So what we're finding is across, no matter where we're at in the country or who we're dealing with, people are really interested in food again. They want to know the story. They want to know where it comes from. They want to know how it works. People are interested in cooking again. It's become cool to grow a garden again. So I think as far as from a marketing standpoint, local maybe 4 or 5 years ago in our environment didn't really mean a lot because people were looking at driving cost and, how do we control this menu? And I think what's happening now is we're seeing people that have a lot more open minds. They're willing to be flexible on menus and change out for seasons and look at a lot of stuff they didn't 5 years ago because they've realized that it's cool to them. It's cool to the people shopping in their restaurants. And I think for us, that's really neat because us and the people at US Foods, we're food people. We love food. We think it's cool, and it seems like the market's really starting to reflect that on a much larger scale.
And going back to your executive chefs as well, a lot of them came into US Foods from previous areas or previous companies. Have they been able to bring in their own products that they prefer and use?
Yeah, I would say on our culinary team, it's very open-minded. So, our division, every division we have has their own executive chef, as well as our corporate team. And the benefits of working with entrepreneurial-driven restaurants is there's a lot of flexibility there. So if you're dealing with a regional or a national chain, it takes a long time to make a menu change. So like the Brussels sprouts is a good example. That started over a year ago, and now we're really seeing the results of it now in a lot of regional menus. But when you're dealing with a lot of family-owned people who own 1, 2, maybe 5 restaurants, the chefs can have a really big impact on that because if someone's passionate about something, they're going to share that with any audience they're talking to. So really anybody who comes in US Foods, whether it's a chef or it's somebody like me or any of our buyers, if there's something they're really passionate about and they think is really important, it's really easy to get that message out to our customers.
Thank you. Britta, in relation to obviously the hydroponics and marketing that direct to consumer, are there any plans for your product to be scaled on a larger scale?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually been growing very quickly. So we started we started off with one of the record-breaking Kickstarter campaigns in the end of 2011. So we went into manufacturing of this modular system and raised $257,000 in 3 weeks, which was a lot of money back then, early on in the Kickstarter days. And since then, unfortunately, one of the things about that was that, Kickstarter and all of these new models hadn't really worked out their own bugs. They're a startup scene too. And so we had, all of a sudden we went from being, this New York-based company to having an international audience and having backers and people who wanted our product, all over the world. And so, we were really still kind of catching up with that, but we just moved into Canada. And we're basically building out our farm network. We've got some it's really interesting to see the landscape of farmers. I've gotten to travel all over the world at this point and see different kinds of indoor agriculture in Japan and in Scandinavia. And, it's really interesting. This movement is totally global. It's happening all over the place. The types of food that people are interested in are slightly different. But yeah, the funny thing is too that we're learning more and more, being one of the early comers to this emerging industry, we have like over 100,000 customers on or subscribers to our list, and we've been, really doing a little bit of analysis of who these people are and finding some really surprising things. So we've got everything from senior citizens, people who are buying them for Mother's Day for, their mother and grandmother who can't garden outdoors anymore, all the way down to obviously the schools and the restaurants, but also just young foodies who are looking for the newest, coolest thing, and getting to a point of focusing on who are the best customer groups within this emerging market, because it is so broad. It's really interesting, and to be able to focus on the markets that are really best. Another surprise that we found was that we thought that this was going to be mostly an urban thing, really in the intense urban centers, and our big markets are New York, Chicago, San Francisco, but about 40% of our customer base is in suburbs and even out into rural areas. And so, that's one of the just interesting things about this movement is it is very much a niche, but it's also an incredibly broad market that we're seeing, unfold in different ways all around the world.
In your marketing of your systems, what advice and lessons would you take from that for the local farmer to use to go ahead and market and get their produce out there?
Yeah, absolutely. The customer wants to know absolutely who you are, what you're in this for. One of my favorite farmers who I work with is a gentleman named Greg Graft of Grateful Greens. He's in Clarksville, Indiana, and he's a former chef who became a grower because he wasn't getting good enough produce when it boiled down to it. And the discoveries that he makes along the way every day, he's the one who, yes, his chef clients are using, the red vein sorrel in every one of those mixed green bags we get, but most of the general public doesn't know a lot about that. But he actually is a mouthpiece himself for what those uses could be. He learns from his chefs again, and then basically, has these stories to tell about what to do with this. And he eats all of his own produce. He makes himself green juices, and he's gone through actually like a bit of a personal transformation as far as weight loss and from that as well. And so I think, using the position that you have and then leveraging your partners like us to make sure that your story is getting packaged in a very good way with good marketing materials, but without necessarily having to produce that all yourself. That is absolutely the key to your word spreading. Greg recently produced food for several of like President Obama's like state dinners and so forth because he's really been good at telling his story.
Thank you. Don, go ahead, please.
About telling the story, back to telling your story. Most consumer will stand there and read your story, but they're only going to run 3 to 4 lines, so keep it short and direct to the point.
Don and Matt, do you currently work with any farmers that do produce indoor produce?
Yeah, I mean, we do, mostly on a large scale. We are starting to find some local, depending on the markets, finding some local greenhouse growers, really microgreens, lettuce, things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, we work with them, on a small extent, on a local level, and then we definitely deal with some people, on a more of a national level. Yeah,
like I deal with 10% of my growers are greenhouse growers, and I want that to grow. I want to get it at least 50-50, but I'm looking for those people out there who want to grow with us.
We use all indoor, all greenhouse growers.
Window Farms uses all indoor. Yeah, if that wasn't clear already. Don and Nat, what advantage have you seen to your clients and customers when you've worked business and purchased from these indoor producers?
The big thing for us is just consistency. Consistency in quality, flavor. You don't have the eaves and flows that you do with a field-grown product. So, the biggest thing for us that stands out is definitely consistency, and then a lot of parts of the country being able to have year-round product.
I agree, especially consistency on sizing and the quality of the product itself.
With the indoor production, have either of you been able to obtain produce from one area that may not be specific to that area, but because it's produced indoors, you're able to get it?
I think for us, a big one, or a recent success story, would be Illinois. So we partnered up with a company called Living Water Farms, family-owned business in Illinois. They do a lot of microgreens, some fresh herbs, and some leafy greens. And we've been able to get a relationship started there, and are now utilizing their products in our 2 facilities in Illinois. And obviously lettuce is not grown in Illinois. There's not very much produce at all grown there, so to find somebody like that with really neat, flavorful, unique products has been a really good opportunity for us.
I got 2 growers in Arizona. You figured cactus and desert, and it's hot. But reality, there's tomato growers out there in greenhouses out that way. And I never thought would grow out there because of temperature.
Thank you. Britta, if you could eliminate one stigma that's related to either hydroponics or indoor production, what would it be and why?
Well, how about, could I introduce an idea instead?
Please do.
I think that what we need to, the concept that we need to introduce, at least for indoor agriculture that's going into people's homes, is the idea of a local microclimate even within a home. So you can have two windows that are in the same room, and one of them gets more sunlight than the other, and one may have a little bit more airflow than another. So we actually have like a certain sense of almost like a terroir to different places in a person's home. And, you know, that's all the same things that you're thinking about as a farmer when you're setting up your greenhouse and you're thinking about what is my particular market like, what are people going to want me to produce here, and what can I produce given the natural assets that I have available to me. The absolute same thing is true in the spaces that we already live in, and that we actually can be doing a lot more production in our own homes, but it's going to require really, you know, thinking a little bit differently about what agriculture is.
Thank you. I'd love to open up to the floor any questions that anyone would have. I think this is a really interesting panel, diverse panel, so I want to have as much time for questions as possible. Did any of you want to mention something prior to opening up before questions? No. Okay. Please.
My questions are related to the people in the room that are just starting their operations and then looking to work with bigger companies like Whole Foods and U.S. Foods. What is the best route to take in the choice of what you're going to produce? And does U.S. Foods or Whole Foods give access to historical data related to pricing and what is really needed in the market? And how can new companies really pin down that information? Because we talk about all of these technologies and how to set up operations, but that's really dependent on what you want to grow. So how would you guys, if you were in our position right now, how would you guys go about setting up your operations to be working with communities?
Well, for us, I would reach out to myself, and I can help you with a lot of that. We can help you with historical data on what volumes might look like, what pricing trends would look like, depending on where you're at, where we know there's a huge void in that market. We can help lead you to where we think there could be the best opportunity, and we're happy to share as much information as we can to give you as much of an educated platform that you can get to make a decision.
Same good answer with Matt, but you know, we work one-on-one with you guys. If you know, sure, you got your other fellow farmers out there, but you know, we got some data that we could rely on and say, hey, we might need this at this certain time of the year. But the only bad thing is pricing. There is no pricing for indoor growing at all, and everything is based off the USDA off the field.
Yeah, I'd say we would. I mean, as long as you meet the the GAP certification, meet the liability. Yeah, I mean, we're really open-minded, and although we're a big company, we're very local driven with our divisions, and there's still a lot of flexibility. I guess it would really be up to you to really sell us why it's a good fit, why it makes sense, and if we believe in what you're selling, even if it's 3 months or 3 years, if we believe in it and we think there's a good opportunity, then yeah, we're willing to take a chance.
Coming from a farmer's background, I know to give you guys a break. There's not a lot of breaks out there for you guys, and you guys need to move that product. So we're here at Whole Foods, probably at US, willing to gamble on you guys and give you a chance to grow together with us.
What kind of
I always go to the farmer. I know this is going to be bad, real bad. How much would you pay for that item? And how much would you pay me? I'll work it backwards. Throw it on you. Well, we're willing to take a chance. Yeah, please.
Yeah, same thing with the cupcakes as well. Yeah, we sell wholesale to casinos, we sell wholesale to restaurants, and if we sell our cupcakes somewhere around $2.20 to $2.60 per unit, this is an alcohol-infused cupcake, they'll put it on their menu somewhere between $5.99 and $7.99.
Like how much quantity do I need?
Yeah, like energy companies have to purchase a certain amount of their energy from renewable supplies. So, does U.S. Foods, does Whole Foods have a certain segment of the market in which you have to purchase from indoor kind of growing facilities?
No.
Or local?
We don't either. No.
I found that because we are growing produce, we're trying not to break the cold chain. How can you guys help us with backhaul logistics? I know that there's a turnaround that some people have, or do you have resources to direct us to a company that could assist us to get it to you?
I mean, I would say for us both. It would just be a matter of figuring it out. So is it something where our trucks are driving right by your farm 4 times a week and we can pick it up? Or is there somebody we use in that market a lot that's very reliable? We would just want to kind of help lead you to that. As far as the cold chain goes, we obviously operate all of our trucks refrigerated, all of our docks are refrigerated, all of our coolers are refrigerated. So what we really sell our customers on is once we pick it up and put it on a truck, it doesn't break the cold chain until it gets to the end user. So
We don't pick up. Unless you're big and we're going national with you guys. For a small one, we use distributors, and we work with distributors on that too.
We have a monthly pickup through UPS that just comes to your warehouse or your greenhouse.
UPS full?
USPS, pardon me. And no, it doesn't. It actually shouldn't be refrigerated because these are live plants. So they still have the roots attached. You're just pulling them directly out of your system and putting them into our packaging.
Seasonality. We're all going indoors now. This is what indoors conference before. What about that? There is no season. You continue growing tomatoes all year round, or you continue growing peppers, or for my case, I grow squash blossoms. Well, the chefs are saying, well, they're not really in season anymore. Well, there is a season because we're growing indoors. Well, how do you manage that with your chefs?
yeah, great question. I think it's a mindset change. So if I'm in the Midwest, I live in Kansas City, if it's snowing out, I'm maybe not thinking about a salad. So squash blossoms is a great example. It's a matter of education and changing the mindset of our chefs and realizing that, hey, we're partnered up with this great indoor ag grower. We now have this stuff 12 months out of the year, and helping them understand that, hey, we can look at things a little different now because, I just use salads as an example. People eat salads year-round. There's opportunities for all these items year-round, but traditionally there hasn't been, and menus tend to kind of follow the seasonality of what's going on with the weather and things like that.
Let's take your squash blossoms. They're seasonal because it's a spring item. And everybody looking for them in spring. Since you got them 24/7 for us, maybe we might think of putting them in soups or pizzas, using them that way, introduce them that way, educate our customers, hey, we got squash blossoms. we could send out recipes and use it on pizzas or Japanese food and stuffing them. You know, there's other opportunities for us to help you with.
And as an e-commerce company, we're constantly, sending out every week recipes and uses for everything that we ship to our customers, and so we basically can actually help a little bit control the demand for certain things and help get people used to this idea. But I think that that's something that as an industry we need to work together on, and we could pool some forces in a way to start getting that message of seasonality being something that's in the process of change right now. That, it shouldn't be that gardening season or that everyone starts thinking about, certain kinds of produce just because springtime comes around. If we actually all work together and got some kind of collective marketing out there that started to reintroduce these ideas at different times of year, I think that could help all of us.
No? Okay, I'm on. Okay, so I wanted to ask, you guys are both sourcing, John and Matt. So when you're sourcing, are you only looking for fresh produce, or are you also looking for packaged goods as well?
I would say for me personally, I'm focused on produce. I run across many other items in my travels, and I try to send that on to the appropriate people within our organization, but I directly work with produce.
With the produce background I have with farming and stuff like that, I deal with fresh and floral, but I pass you on to, we got other people in our company like me.
Okay, my second question is, what are the biggest regions that are looking for fresh produce? What are the growing regions right now where you have the highest demand but not enough suppliers, where people should focus their energies?
That's a good question. I mean, I would.
People that want to produce food, but they don't know where they should produce because if people are producing too much food in a certain region, maybe if they try to market it to a different region, produce locally there. So that's why I'm curious.
I would say just off the cuff, think of areas where we're only able to grow produce 2 or 3 months a year. I think those areas, the Midwest, definitely the North, even, you mentioned Arizona. We have someone we use down here as well that does greenhouse tomatoes. It's really figuring out where the markets are, where products aren't being grown, and then catering it to that.
You just got to look at the regions, like he says, season, the weather. But I got calls already if I know anybody that wants to go out to Colorado area, start growing that way.
Would you be able to send out a list of things that certain regions are looking for, that distributors, nationally could start producing for you?
I think, personally, you need to do a little homework and see what kind of people live there. What are they looking for? I could tell you, go ahead, grow squash out there in the wintertime because there's no squash. They can't get squash or watermelon. That'd be perfect for out there because of cold and snow.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
One last question.
Is there a specific size of grower that you guys are typically looking at? How many stores they need to be able to support, or one product versus 3 products? Is there anything that you would say this makes you more attractive to us, or is it, if you have 10 pounds of microgreens every 2 months, that's the plan?
Right. I would say no. We don't have a stipulation that says you have this many items, this much volume. It just has to make sense. So the microgreens is a great example. If that's all you have, it's going to be way too cumbersome for you to try to get that to our warehouse or for us to pick it up. But if you have one item but you got some decent volume on it, it makes sense for us to utilize it. We want to do it no matter what size of your operation is.
We understand if you only want to grow one item, so you get good at it. Till then we move on to another item. But we understand you're not going to have that one product every day of that week. We understand there's going to be hiccups. So we understand that because we go with that with the field guys already. Because the weather gets too hot or it gets rain or wind. We understand that. So we understand the hiccups. We grow together. If you only got 5 cases for one store for 1 week, we understand that. We put a sign out there that says, come in next week and your product. And this is what's available.
Yeah, and we deal with mostly small and medium-sized greenhouses. And because we're working on a subscription model where the orders are already coming in the month ahead of time, we've got some visibility and we've got some flexibility to work with you. We may request that you grow a couple of things that maybe are not your core item, especially if you're trying to go towards monoculture. You may get to a size where it's not the best thing to work with us anymore. But when you're kind of at the earlier stages and you're still wanting to do a little bit of experimentation yourself, we can be a really great partner for that.
One more thing. This was talked about a little bit earlier. I just wanted to bring this up. There's a lot of really cool resources out there. So if you want to do it in a certain state or a certain part of the country, reach out to the ag department. There's a lot of neat stuff out there. I was having a conversation earlier. I think some of the state ag departments have realized instead of spending so much money to make fancy logos, they should spend money on helping farmers get GAP certified. So there's a little bit of that going on. If you're just starting out, there's this really awesome website called familyfarm.org. They'll come out and train you on how to set it up. They have a whole manual on called Wholesale Success that helps you understand kind of the parameters of selling a wholesaler. So I know Dawn would help you out, I would help you out. There's a lot of really neat stuff out there that we're exposed to happening all across the country, and a lot of people that really want to help you develop these programs and make them successful.
Well, thank you so much. Please, round of applause.
And thank you, Lisa, also. Thank you. So we're going to do a quick change out here. Our final panel of the day is the financing panel. Sorry, Lisa. Our moderator is my co-host. My company, New Being Capital, and Black Emerald Capital have jointly put this conference together and have been working together on it for about 6 months now. Both Oleg and I, our day jobs are in VC, and so this is a panel that's near and dear to both of our hearts. So I'm going to invite Rob at AgFunder, David at USDA, and Joe Hudson at One Earth Capital to join us up here.